Hi, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels. I'm Dave Briggs alongside Kate Sullivan. Good morning to you, my friend.
morning.
We're here at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. I don't suppose you stayed up and watched what could be a Super Bowl preview in the NFL.
That I did not.
You did not.
I got
Good
an early
decision.
night.
Detroit beat Baltimore in Baltimore in a decisive victory. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on, see what that means in terms of the NFL season. But first, we have a big slate of news.
We do. First of all, I want to say happy Rosh Hashanah to those who celebrate. And today, first full day of fall started at
Is that right?
Yeah, 2:19 yesterday, Eastern time. Fall started, the autumnal equinox. So happy fall.
Do you have an alert that goes off when fall
I'm a fall
begins?
person, yes, I do.
It's a sad day for me.
Is it?
I feel like that means golf season's over.
Oh, but football, and you love
You're right. You're right. Thank you.
You call football irresistible.
You're right.
So.
It's a good, you're optimist. I'm the pessimist.
Just with the reframe, right? All right, let's get you caught up on the stories of the day. The lead today, Jimmy Kimmel will be back on his late night show tonight. He was pulled off the air last week after comments he made following the murder of Charlie Kirk. We will have more on that story in just a few minutes.
Should be a fascinating show. Quick question. Do you think he apologizes?
I think he does not, but says something comparable. I don't think he's going to say sorry.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's like when you punish your kid, are they going to actually apologize?
Yes.
Plus, sticker shock on your power bill. Average costs up nearly 30% since 2019, and even higher in some states, including mine, Connecticut. We'll look at what's driving the surge and how it's hitting families. Our question of the day tied to that story. Are you paying more for electricity this year? If so, how much more? A little more, a lot more, about the same. You see the QR code in the bottom of your screen. Snap it with your phone, cast your vote. We'll check in throughout the hour. Boy, that has been painful for families across the country. I know in the state of Connecticut, we are still dealing with the impacts of COVID. How many millions did not pay the bills was simply transferred to those that do pay their bills, which is a remarkable well, I don't want to say achievement, but forced down the throats of Connecticut consumers. It is painful every month.
And I'm in Illinois, and it's for our bill alone is at least 20% higher. It's palpable.
At least, yes. I would say if you go back to 2019, ours is probably up 40%. Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see.
Tough pill to swallow. Speaking of, right?
Yes. President Trump is warning pregnant women to avoid taking Tylenol. Yes, this came out yesterday, claiming there's a link between the painkiller and autism. He made this announcement alongside Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Take a listen.
They will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change.
Because I think you shouldn't take it, and you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire, and you shouldn't give the child a Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child.
The president also promoted the use of folic acid as a treatment for autism. The medical community, as you can imagine, is quick to challenge the findings of the White House.
Joining us now is Dr. Pyle Coley, adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins, and Duke with a closer look at these claims. Really appreciate you coming on this morning. This is such an important story, Doctor. Let's just start with the basics. What does the science say about a link between Tylenol and pregnancy?
Good morning, guys. Certainly, this has the entire medical community buzzing because what we've known for some time that Tylenol, which is also acetaminophen, that's the generic name, does have a link with autism spectrum disorders. And that's what I call a correlation or an association. Now, notice I'm not saying causation, which means we don't have science that proves that it causes autism spectrum disorders. So could the Tylenol just be a marker of risk, a marker of something else like infection or fever or migraine that's actually causing the risk? And the Tylenol itself is not causing the risk. That's called confounding. So when you look at studies that look at sibling pairs, one sibling was exposed to Tylenol during pregnancy, the other wasn't, same parents, same environment, we don't see much of a difference, which is why the medical community doesn't believe that Tylenol or acetaminophen necessarily is causal.
Dr. Coley, pregnant women for years have been told to take Tylenol and not take Advil, right? Like that was kind of drilled into my head through my 3 pregnancies. So this is really stunning. So what's going to happen in the doctor's offices when pregnant women walk in? Surely, this has just come out. What are doctors to do, and why do so many professional groups of doctors still consider acetaminophen safe?
Well, more than half of women take acetaminophen during pregnancy, and we tell them to, just like you said, because in fact, it is one of the safest options. And nothing in the science has proven otherwise yet. We just have this as potentially being a marker of risk, but not necessarily that it's causing risk. And if you look at the alternatives to acetaminophen for pregnant women, for pain, for fever, for infection, the Advil, the ibuprofen, the nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories carry much more risk. And the idea of not taking anything when you're in pain or have a fever, that carries much more risk to mom and to the baby, because we know that causes harm to the placenta and to the developing baby. So I really want women to not be fearful of acetaminophen during their pregnancy. Nothing new has changed in the science. The studies have not been conclusive to establish risk. And we've been using it for several decades. We know that autism spectrum disorders are really multifactorial. There's no one thing that causes it. So I don't think anything should make women worry or be afraid to take Tylenol if they need to take it.
Yeah, the Journal of American Medical Association agrees with you in their research. But I just want to go back to your first answer to what there is some link, some suggestion. If you could just elaborate, because I hadn't actually heard that on what the data shows that there could be something in Tylenol that's impacting this.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's really 2 big studies that we look at. One was a study done in 2019 looking at umbilical cord blood and actually measuring levels of acetaminophen. And there was what we call a dose response relationship, meaning the higher the levels of acetaminophen in the umbilical cord, meaning the higher the baby got exposed to, the higher the odds of developing an autism spectrum disorder. Now, again, this could just be a marker of something going on with mom during the delivery or right around the time of delivery that led her to take more Tylenol, that then potentially led to this. It doesn't establish causation, but certainly raises the suspicion of an association or a correlation. And then in 2025, just a few months ago, we had a large, what's called meta-analysis, where they put a bunch of smaller studies together and try to look for trends. So they put 46 studies together looking at acetaminophen during pregnancy and neurodevelopmental disorders. 27 came out positive, showing a potential association. 9 came out null, saying there was no association. And 4, in fact, came out protective, saying that Tylenol use may actually be protective. So the science is really very confusing and very complicated. It makes us want to look more closely at women who take Tylenol, but I really think we need what's called these sibling controls, where we're controlling for the same home environment, the same parents, the same genetics, the same exposures, and then seeing if there's a link.
Right.
I just got to say, we are very fortunate to have the best television doctor
Yeah.
in the country. I mean, I'm really, truly
That was a good breakdown.
blown away
Yes.
by the research
Thank
you
you,
just
Dave.
recited.
I'll pay you later.
If you were pregnant tomorrow, would you feel comfortable taking Tylenol?
100%. In fact, I'm telling all my pregnant patients not to worry at all about taking it. Now, here's what I'll say. When you're pregnant, you limit the dose and you limit the duration. So you definitely want to be sure you're not going on taking all kinds of things every ache or pain. You don't want to reach for Tylenol. But if you're in significant pain, that releases harmful inflammatory chemicals to baby and to you that could impact your pregnancy. You do not want to be fearful of Tylenol. And the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, the Autism Science Foundation, the American Academy of Pediatrics all stand behind these recommendations. And I would say the same to your child once they're born. If they have a fever, young kids are high risk for what's called febrile seizures, which means they can seize and have complications from the fever. You want to give them Tylenol to reduce that fever.
And also, you hit on something that's so important. When a pregnant woman is in pain, she's in distress, she's in stress, and we know that can have ramifications. Question for you: how dangerous could it be to ignore vaccine schedules, which is something that President Donald Trump also mentioned yesterday? And can you shed some light on that?
I mean, this is incredibly dangerous because we know for a fact that science has proven no causal link between vaccines and autism spectrum disorders. We know for a fact that these vaccine schedules, which have been around for decades, have
Thank you very much.
eradicated diseases like polio and
So
until
Bernard,
earlier
he was
this
married
year,
for 20
measles.
years.
So I feel
The
like
whole issue
ignoring the
of
vaccine
physicians'
schedules
notice
is
about the
poking the
risk
bear.
of
It's
acetaminophen
asking for
during
trouble.
pregnancy
And
and
we know that little babies, newborns, have immature immune systems. So you're really exposing your child to risk by ignoring the vaccine schedules that are so well established.
What do you know about this leucovorin as a potential autism treatment? The president has mentioned it.
So leucovorin is basically a metabolite of folic acid. It's an active version of folic acid. And in some kids, we found that folic acid, which is responsible for brain development and for communication between neurons, is deficient, or they have antibodies against the receptor that prevents them from using it. So in those children that have that specific antibodies, it has shown some promising benefit, and that's in small clinical trials. Now, it's not a first line treatment by any means. It's not a one size fits all for all autism spectrum disorders. But if you have a problem with folic acid metabolism and you give them a active version of folic acid, which is leucovorin or folinic acid, it really can help improve some of those behavioral symptoms. In general, it's a safe treatment because it's derived from a vitamin. So they're studying it still for more broader use, but it's really only been studied in those particular kids at this point.
Dr. Pyle Coley, the best television doctor, full stop. You're the
Phenomenal.
best. Thank you.
And I will tell you, this is really going to be a firestorm. This story is not going away because this is going to. Pregnant women already are under so much stress. And you have doctors like Dr. Coley who's saying 100% your question, would you take Tylenol if you were pregnant?
Absolutely,
She said 100%. Yeah.
But there will be 100% millions of women who stop
Absolutely.
the use of
They'll be
Tylenol
confused.
tomorrow.
They will not know what to do.
Meanwhile, the makers of Tylenol are in crisis mode. Drug maker Kenvue saw its stock price tumble more than 7% by the time markets closed yesterday. The company's interim CEO met privately with RFK Jr. earlier this month, trying to argue that acetaminophen is safe. The Tylenol Instagram account also posted this video explaining no scientific data shows a proven link between taking acetaminophen and autism. This is not the first crisis for Tylenol. The brand survived the 1980s cyanide poisonings when someone tampered with bottles of extra-strength Tylenol in Chicago and has remained one of the most popular pain relievers with nearly $1 billion in annual sales. So what does that stock plummet? Well, not plummet, but drop 7% mean? More than $2.5 billion in market cap. That
This
is
is stunning.
money that investors lost.
Yes.
Gone in 24 hours, and now more than 6 billion investors have lost in Kenvue since rumors of this started circulating. You can't help but wonder if a lawsuit is coming. It seems like an open and shut case.
It sure does. And the confusion, not only in the medical community, also in the business. This is a business story and a medical story,
Yes.
and a lot of questions still. Well, as we mentioned, the other top story, Jimmy Kimmel is headed back to late night. Yes, ABC says his show will return to the air on Tuesday after a controversial suspension that sparked a national debate over free speech, politics, and government pressure. However, Sinclair, that's a company that owns 38 ABC stations, said it would continue to preempt Kimmel's show tonight while negotiations with the network continue. Disney executives pulled Kimmel off the air last week after his comments on Charlie Kirk's killer drew heavy criticism. FCC Chair Brendan Carr was accused of threatening networks, adding fuel to the free speech firestorm. Hollywood unions and even some conservatives blasted the move, calling it censorship and corporate cowardice. Kimmel's return is expected to be one of the most closely watched episodes of Late Night in years. What's he gonna say? News of his return ignited social media commentary, with many liberals celebrating and just as many conservatives blasting ABC's decision.
A lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
Number one, we say Carr was accused of threatening networks. He accused them. He did it on a podcast. He literally said we can do this the hard way or the easy way. There's no accusation there. He plainly threatened them. Will Jimmy Kimmel apologize? Look, I don't think quite frankly, I don't think he has to apologize.
He doesn't.
I think what he needs to do is clarify his remarks and state plainly that he never suggested or intended to suggest that the shooter was MAGA, was Republican, but he never actually did that. If you, again, listen to what he said. My question for you is, Kate, what do you say if you are an advertiser for Sinclair that is preempting 38 stations, to your point? If I'm spending thousands of dollars on ads, I want eyeballs.
I want
this
the
will be the
biggest night.
highest rated
Yes.
Jimmy Kimmel show ever.
Right.
And you're going to miss out on those viewers?
Without a doubt.
I'm pulling my ads.
Yes. Well, I think you make up a great point, because this is going to be a huge night. People want to know, what's he going to say? Is he going to apologize? What does that look like? You know, it was such an emotional week for our country, and it was such a time of grief. It was such a time when the country felt sensitive. So I think there's a moment for Jimmy Kimmel to really reflect on that. And I think he himself could actually bring the country together with the words he chooses. Question is, will he? Will he make a light of it? What will he say? You know, it's going to be really interesting.
I don't know that anyone can bring this country together right now. It will be I will stay up, and I never watch late night comedy shows. This will be the first time I've stayed up for them in years.
Yes.
Meanwhile, hours before news that Kimmel was back, the View hosts broke their silence about the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel. Viewers were left scratching their heads the day after the Kimmel news last week, when Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and the rest of the team at The View did not mention the story.
This was surprising, yeah.
Oh, it was so bizarre. On Monday's show, Whoopi said they took a breath to see if Jimmy was going to say anything, and it had nothing to do with the fact The View is on ABC Network around the country. The hosts were highly critical of Kimmel's suspension and directed their criticism to the Trump administration and Carr, not ABC.
Come on.
And if you pull back the curtain a little bit, Front Office Sports and now the New York Post have reported that the FCC is attempting to hold up ESPN's acquisition of the NFL network, and the NFL would take a 10% stake in ESPN. And that is a major deal. That is network defining for ESPN and their streaming service. I can't help but wonder if the NFL and Jimmy Pitero at ESPN say, look, this will not go on. If there's one property I think the president has learned he cannot touch, it's the NFL. No one can stop the momentum of the NFL.
And also, getting back to The View, I mean, the biggest talker of the month, of the week in memory, Jimmy Kimmel, and
right
they're
up their alley.
And
they know Jimmy well,
and they're comedians, right?
Yes.
Whoopi's a comedian, Joy's a comedian. This is a chance to talk about free speech, to talk about who can say what, when is sensitive, what is not sensitive, and they say nothing.
And to the same point of late, I don't watch The View, but I would certainly watch to hear their commentary.
Yes.
This story is right up their alley.
It is.
Wow, so much cheer. Howard Stern not holding back, lashing out at ABC and saying he canceled his Disney Plus subscription in protest, as millions of others have claimed to. Stern, a longtime friend of Jimmy Kimmel, blasted the move as government-backed censorship. He also accused ABC of caving to pressure from FCC Chair Brendan Carr. Stern is no stranger to the FCC, as you all know. Before making his move from traditional radio to Sirius satellite radio, he was fined multiple times for broadcasting obscene content, with his station paying millions in penalties. Howard Stern, again, one of those voices you want to hear weigh in on this, because he has seen it, he has been there. And it was interesting hearing Bill Maher talk on his show Friday night. He said, look, I'm no stranger to this. Ironically, it was the same day in history that Bill Maher was pulled off of ABC networks many years ago.
The same day.
The same exact day.
History repeats itself.
This is nothing new.
Yeah.
And this is nothing that's going away anytime soon, in my estimation.
I think also the piggybacking of Stephen Colbert, it looks, you know what I mean? There's a momentum that many people perceive of the freedom of speech going away. So it's the double whammy of both the two big names, Colbert and Kimmel, right? That's what's having such a profound effect.
Right. And the president himself, after Colbert was fired, said, well, the others are next. He made very clear his threats and his desire. And we'll see where this goes. Sherry Redstone, who's the former executive chairwoman of Paramount, gave an interview Friday with Axios. And she said, no, our decision about Colbert had been made months prior based on financial decisions, but no evidence that that is true.
I see. Well, let's change gears here and talk a little weather. AccuWeather meteorologist Alex Da Silva is taking a look at the forecast coast to coast. And I know we've got rain coming, especially in the Northeast. Alex?
Yeah, we certainly do, and that's certainly a relief. I was laying in bed yesterday and I heard something on the roof. I was like, what's that? Finally, we're seeing some rain across portions of the Northeast. This is great news. We are in a pretty severe drought across portions of the Northeast in New England right now, so any rain is going to be welcome. We're going to be seeing some rain come through today, but that's not the only area we're dealing with drought. We're also dealing with drought across portions of the Arklatex region, all the way up through the Ozarks and into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. Again, we're going to be seeing a lot of rain in this area over the next couple of days, so that's certainly going to be very welcome. Of course, we don't want to see any flooding, but a lot of this area is in pretty dire straits for rainfall. So this rain, I think, for most people is going to be very welcome.
All right, what about the possibility of some severe weather in the central U.S.?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same areas we just looked at. So we're looking here, Arklatex region, as well as up into the Ozarks, and then all the way into the Tennessee Valley. We're going to be watching for severe storms during the afternoon and evening hours today, some of which could bring some pretty gusty winds and maybe an isolated tornado or two. Then the threat moves a little bit east during the day on Wednesday. So we're looking in the middle and southern Mississippi valleys for some severe weather again during the day tomorrow. The threats will be the same, some hail, gusty winds, and maybe an isolated tornado or two.
Alex, did you say Arklatex? I've never heard that. Is that Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas?
That's it. It's actually this region right down here.
Okay.
So right there,
I lived in Arkansas for 5 years, and I never ever heard that. But I will now be using it thanks to you. Tell us a little bit of what's going on with Hurricane Gabrielle.
Yeah, well, right now we're still tracking Gabrielle. It's a Category 4 hurricane way out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean here. Let me zoom out so you can see exactly where the storm is. It's way out in this area here. There you go. But it's overall going to be pushing off to the west here over the next couple of days. We're going to have to watch the Azores here off the coast of Europe here very closely later on this week, as the storm could bring some hurricane force winds to the islands here later on this week. And then we're even tracking it all the way into Portugal and Spain here as we go into the weekend. I don't think it'll be tropical at that point, but we still could see some pretty heavy rain and gusty winds this weekend in portions of Portugal and Spain.
All right. Alex De Silva for us. Thank you so much.
All right, Connecting America just getting started. Up next, we'll talk about dishes. We'll talk about a lawsuit against the California school district for allowing a transgender athlete on the volleyball team. We'll be right back with that.
Welcome back to Connecting America. Here we are, the first full day of fall. I'm so excited. You're a little sad.
Well, no chill in the air, though. You know, it didn't.
No.
At least it didn't feel that way this morning. It's been beautiful. The weather out here's been spectacular.
It has. We're going to have some rain, but it's
Yeah,
coming.
You're right. By
Sweater
tomorrow,
weather.
when it's pouring rain, I'll be bitter and angry. Don't worry.
All right. We'll go back and forth. I have a feeling on this one. To other news right now, a high school volleyball team in California is at the center of a lawsuit over a transgender teammate. The athletes go to Jurupa Valley High School. The lawsuit was filed, against the California Interscholastic Federation and the State Department of Education. It states the girls' religious beliefs and their right to privacy were violated when they were forced to share a locker with a biological male. The team even chose to forfeit several matches. Jim Rosenfield and I spoke with the team's attorney, Erin Mercino, along with one of the athletes, Hadil Hazama.
Hadil, let's start with you.
Thank you.
Tell us how this all started for you and the team.
Well, since my freshman year, I've been an athlete with this student, and I never said anything. I never spoke up about it. I've always just been respectful about it. But as time grew, I realized, I'm not okay with this. My religious beliefs aren't okay with this, and I think I need to speak up to do what's right, not only just for me, but the girls who feel uncomfortable in the locker room, who've come to me and said they don't support it, and just all girls in general, all athletes, and all females.
You know, kudos to you for speaking up if you did not feel comfortable. To be clear, and if you can help shed some light for our viewers, is it about the bathroom sharing, or is it the fact that a transgender person is playing on the team? And this has been going on for years.
It's just that transgenders have a biological advantage, and also because of the restroom sharing. I've always had that, both.
Did the school offer any alternatives in terms of the locker room situation or no?
All they said was, if you feel uncomfortable, you can come change in the office. And I said, what if all the girls in school are uncomfortable? What would you do then? Then they said, we'd have to accommodate to them as well.
Isn't that interesting? They wouldn't have the transgender student change in the office, that they would have all of you change in the office? Was that ever brought up?
Yeah, that was my question. Yeah, I was like, all of these girls have to be accommodated to for one person, and I just don't feel like our rights are being protected as we should be, because it's a girls' locker room.
Mm-hmm. Why the choice to forfeit the games as opposed to speaking out in a different way? What did that say, and why specifically forfeit the games?
I think it just makes a statement that I'm not okay with this, and I want to play with a girls' team because that's the team that I joined. It's not a co-ed team. It's a women's team, and I just feel like I should be on a women's team with all women.
What's been the reaction from the community, Hadil?
I've gotten a lot of support, especially from adults and from teachers, but a lot of my friends as well agree with me. They said they're really proud of me for standing up, but then there's also that other side that will give you dirty looks when you're walking the hallways, and I've even got barked at walking to class, which I think was funny, but there's always going to be two ends of the story, and I just feel like their hate is because they don't understand what I'm doing.
Erin, let's talk about the basis for this particular lawsuit. Explain what's different in this one, because California passed a law back in 2013 that does allow transgender students to compete on sports teams based on their gender identity. What's different in this case?
Sure. So we believe that California's law conflicts with Title IX, which was passed in 1972, which was really instrumental in allowing women to succeed in sports in their own categories. And we've seen just the amazing benefits that we've reaped as a society from Title IX. All of the female CEOs who were successful in women's sports growing up, just all of the wonderful things that it's done for women to really have an equal playing field in the game of life. But here in this lawsuit, we bring a Title IX claim. Not only was Hadil and her teammates treated as really less than the individual who's a biological male, but they also were in very uncomfortable situations. They made very serious concerns to the school about inappropriate touching that had been going on, and there was just no real response from the school at all. So the school has put these children in a very difficult situation. So we have a Title IX claim, we have the free exercise of religion claim, which Hadil has very high standards for modesty. She has sincerely held religious beliefs that don't allow her to undress in front of a male in the locker room. We know that Title IX and its implementing regulations allow for sex segregated spaces for women, so they can enjoy privacy and really enjoy the fullness of competing in sports without having to change in a locker room with a biological male. So there's a number of different claims that we bring in this lawsuit, but those are the main two claims. And I think that it's really important that her constitutional rights, her First Amendment right to free exercise of religion, it's the first clause in the First Amendment, that it's very important and it should be respected. And she shouldn't be relegated to a different bathroom because there is someone on her team who is a biological male.
And what about the school? I mean, what have they done to ameliorate the situation, to in some way try to figure out a peaceful resolution? Have they done anything? And this question is both for Hadil and for Aaron.
So before we filed the lawsuit, they did nothing. And I also want to clarify that the forfeiting of the teams, it was other teams not wanting to play Hadil's team. So there were 6 teams who forfeited games prior to us filing this lawsuit. So the girls were losing out on their season because there's a biological male on their team. But I'll let Hadil take it from there.
Yeah, there's been 6 schools that canceled, and then there was one game that we finally got to book. It was against Chafee High School, but that's when me and Alyssa decided to take a stand and show that we're not okay with this. And although it really hurts me to step down from my senior season, because I've waited for this moment since my freshman year, since my sophomore year, but I think it's a good cause that what I'm doing, so I'm willing to lose some playing time if it means that it'll protect more women in the future and in the present.
What's the status of the suit, Aaron?
So we've just filed the lawsuit, and now we're waiting for the next steps. We just received the different documents from the court, so now we're serving the defendants, and we'll see from there. We certainly want to take this to the furthest extent because we believe that Hadil's rights, they deserve the highest level of protection. It's amazing that these young girls have to be the ones carrying the burden of this fight, and that the adults in the school district, her coach, that they could not take steps to appropriately protect her and listen to her concerns. And so we believe that this is important for Hadil's rights, for every girl who is dreaming of succeeding in sports in America. We believe it's important for her rights, and we believe that it's important for women's rights across the country.
And again, that was attorney Aaron Mercino, along with the athlete Hadil Hazama, the mother of J.B. Hernandez. That's the transgender athlete that's in the center of this, has criticized the child's school, accusing them of allowing the harassment against her child. Jurupa Valley did issue a statement saying it was the other schools and not Jurupa that forfeited the matches. The school added, as a public school district in California, JUSD is compelled to follow the law, which protects students from discrimination based on gender identity and requires that students be permitted to participate on athletic teams that are consistent with their gender identity. So both sides are blaming the school. And as I see it, I sort of blame the school too, because I don't think they did really enough.
For not showing leadership.
Well, and not
protecting students.
Not only protecting students who felt uncomfortable with a biological male in the locker room, but also for giving the biological male a place to change. Why forcing them to change together if someone's uncomfortable? This seems like a situation that could have been really
very easy. It's complicated, but that could have been
that
easy.
Element of it.
First off, great job with the interview.
Thank you.
I would love to have the transgender athletes'
Yes.
parents on this program. If they want to come on, we'd love to welcome you because, quite frankly, I don't see this ever as an issue about politics, Republican or Democrat. I have 2 daughters, and they would not feel comfortable changing in front of a biological man.
Absolutely not.
And I would not feel comfortable with that.
them, yeah.
But I, as a sportscaster, as a sports reporter, most of my life, I've seen and talked to several coaches. I've seen many clips online of athletes being hurt by a transgender volleyball player because they can spike the ball. This ain't close. This is like night and day how hard a man can spike. I'm not being sexist here. This is science.
Right.
We can hit the ball at an entirely different level, which is not safe for young girls. Some were getting bloodied and saying, I just can't be a part of this match.
Well, you wonder if you're a transgender athlete, whether you personally feel like you're cheating in a way because you have maybe a natural proclivity to be stronger, faster. And how do you feel about the actual sportsmanship of what you're doing? That would be a question I'd love to pose.
Yeah, if they'd love to come on, we would love to have you here. We will let you speak your mind. We just want to have an honest discussion about this. Up next, we look at what's driving the prices of electricity up, almost 30% higher since 2019. We'll be right back with that.
Good morning and welcome back to Connecting America, coming to you from the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. Question for you: how is your electric bill these days? Mine is sky high.
Painful. And every time I see it, I'm shocked.
Yep.
And that's why governors from 13 states are pushing for a stronger voice and how the country's largest power grid is run. PJM interconnection supplies power to 65 million people across those states and DC, and demand from AI data centers is outpacing the connection of New Jersey sources. Governors have threatened to pull their states out of PJM if costs continue to climb. The push reflects a broader battle over who controls the future of the U.S. power grid.
Joining us now is Jesse Lee, Senior Advisor for Clean Energy with Climate Power. First of all, Jesse, thanks for being with us.
Morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, electricity prices across the country, wow, they are rising faster than inflation, up nearly 27% since 2019. This is every year since the first Trump administration to Biden's administration, isn't it?
Yeah, although we're in a particular crunch right now because, as you say, the data centers are kind of exponentially growing and their power needs are exponentially growing. And at the same time, you have an administration right now that is on a bit of a crusade to stop any wind or solar or renewable energy projects from being built. And those are really the projects. They accounted for 94% of our new energy capacity last year. So when you block all of those, suddenly you have this giant mismatch between dramatically escalating demand and kind of cratering supply. And that's a recipe for really high utility bills. They're up just 10% since President Trump came into office.
It really feels like this is a 2019 issue, really more so than a President Trump related story. I mean, those in Connecticut, like myself, have seen bills up 40% since 2019. Taking politics out of this, or is it possible? Maybe it's not. Just a broad, why is it so far outpacing inflation?
Well, I don't think it is really a politics question. Like I say, it's that fundamental supply and demand question, right? Econ 101, where, the reason they are going up is because, since 2019, you've had these new data centers for AI and to some extent crypto kind of coming online faster and faster. And they just eat up gargantuan amounts of energy, set to increase total energy demand by something like 25% over the next 10 years. And so that's kind of what's been driving these prices up. And, on the supply side, like I say, you've got natural gas, but there's like a 5 to 7 year wait time backlog for new natural gas turbines. So they can't really come in and meet that demand. The only things that really can are wind and solar. And like I say, right now, the federal government is basically blocking, they have kind of a ban on any new projects for wind and solar.
And Jesse, the question is, critics are saying that aging grids, more extreme weather, that there's going to be more costly upgrades. Isn't this going to cost even more money? I mean, where do we go from here?
Yeah, well, I think that's absolutely true that the grid is going to need a lot of investment. There actually was a fair amount of investment in that, about $10 billion under the bipartisan Infrastructure Act under President Biden. But you're going to need more of that. Right now is a time where I think if you invested heavily in domestic wind and solar, what you would see is you'd see prices on that come down further and further as it kind of comes to scale. And that's what we were kind of seeing. Right now it's been kind of cut off. And I think it's going to be an untenable situation to stay in that place for the remainder of the Trump administration, because you're going to see, like I say, it's up 10% just since President Trump came into office, and it hasn't even been a full year yet. And so if you're talking about going up 30, 40% over the Trump administration, that's going to be a real crisis for people. It really already is.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't even talked about the transition to AI electric vehicles, which we are ill prepared for. How ill-equipped are we to handle both AI, electric vehicles, and sorry for the double, but what can we do about it? What can either power companies or elected officials do to solve this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to, really returning to a place where we're in an all of the above kind of energy strategy, which I think is where most Americans are, is, we just want kind of more energy from wherever you get it, whether that's wind or solar or even natural gas. In addition to that, there is something to the idea that you need to, have better permitting, kind of permitting reform where you can get projects online faster. Again, all of the above. And there is something to the fact that, PGM talked about, they have been kind of neglectful in bringing new projects that are ready to go onto the grid. And so that's a little bit of what these governors are talking about, is how can they kind of, put their foot down and, demand that the utilities really do their part to keep bills lower for people, because, frankly, their incentive is not always to do that.
And a real question is, why are some parts of the country paying more than others? Why is the Northeast, the West, why are they paying more than the middle of the country?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's actually really true. I think, if you go to climatepower.us, you'll find the list of the 15 states that have the biggest rate hikes. And the top of the list is actually Missouri. Indiana is in the mix. Texas is in the mix. And so it really is kind of across the board that is experiencing this. And, and that's why it's a national problem. That's why it's a federal problem that, Congress really should be stepping in and frankly doing kind of the opposite of what they've done, where, the kind of the big, beautiful bill, the Republican budget that was passed, really took, in their words, a sledgehammer to the incentives for getting any kind of renewable energy online. And, that's been projected to add about another $100 to $400 to people's utility bills over the next 10 years.
Wow, Jesse Lee, thank you. We really appreciate your insight today. And this, of course, brings us to our question of the day. Are you paying more for electricity? And if so, how much more? A little more, a lot more, about the same. Look at it, 100%. Yes. You see that QR code on the bottom of the screen. You can snap it with your mobile phone, cast your vote, and we will check back in.
Which category are you in?
I am a lot more. I would say at least 20 to 25% for sure.
I am a lot more too. And to our guest point there, Jesse's point, it's not one thing. It's not a silver bullet. It is several factors that we are ill-equipped for.
Yeah. Up next, the Blast from the Past. We take you to a special reunion of the show Dawson's Creek. Remember that show?
Love Dawson's Creek.
I did too.
Joey, right?
Yeah.
Joey.
Connecting America. We'll be right back. A very good morning to you. Welcome back to Connecting America. We are live from the Sunrise Diner. And here's sometimes you watch a show, you love a show, and you never think you'd hear it again, right? You never think that would be something in your past. And that is Dawson Creek.
Oh, what a classic. After 22 years, school was back in session for the beloved cast of Dawson Creek on Monday night. They hosted a one-night-only class reunion event at the Richard Rogers Theater in New York. They did a live reading of the pilot episode. And look at the stars in that show. One notable missing cast member, of course, the star of the show, James Vanderbeek, Dawson of Dawson's Creek, made a surprise appearance on video. Boy, unrecognizable, isn't he? James has dropped out of the reunion due to illness.
So sad.
He was previously diagnosed with bone cancer. Stepping in for James was his understudy, a little-known actor by the name of Lin-Manuel Miranda. You may have heard of him, the creator and star of Hamilton.
Yeah, that is
Touche.
stunning.
He is just a wonderful human being as well. But James Vanderbeek, just praying for him. He's a terrific guy from everything I've ever understood and a wonderful actor.
Everyone loved him, right? Everyone loves him. And it's so funny. It's been so long since I've watched that show that I did you catch my mistake? I called it Dawson Creek.
Oh, that's okay.
It's Dawson's Creek.
We forgive. That's just an apostrophe. Yes, that's all. It's funny because having 3 kids, they don't make shows like that anymore. And the proof is in the pudding. My kids, every show they've ever watched is from our generation. Every single one of them, with the exception of the Amazons, The Summer I Turned Pretty. Is that the name?
I don't know.
Forgive me, I haven't seen that one. It's been a smash, which we should talk about here. But I mean, I could name between 5 and 10 great shows that all were from our generation, including Dawson Creek, including 90210, including what was the Gilmore Girls?
Yes.
Gossip Girl.
I love Gossip
I could go
Girl.
on and on and on.
Yeah.
The OC.
Yeah, that says a lot, right? They just don't make them like they used to.
They don't, and it's not just us saying it; it's what our kids are watching.
Yeah, that says a lot. Well, if you are planning a trip to New York City this fall and want to watch the hottest shows on Broadway, Lee Sept shared some expert tips with our Alisyn and Jim. Take a look.
Well, if you're more of a Broadway show person, our Lee Sept has you covered. We cater to all here at the diner. And good morning. We were talking about how amazing it is to see a Broadway show and just how inspiring it is.
Yeah, it's talking about live concerts to live theater. There's nothing like sitting in a Broadway theater witnessing this theatrical event on stage. So I'm going to talk about, if you're planning a trip to New York City, what do you need to know about buying tickets? And actually what's really interesting is that 45% of people living in other areas of the United States made up Broadway attendance in the 2023-2024 season.
45% outside of New York City.
Yes.
Boy, that makes me ashamed because I live an hour away from New York City and I never go to shows. And every time I hear about them, it just makes me wish I went to more. So what are some of the shows I need to get to?
Okay, well, I want to talk about, if you're planning from outside of the of this area, research the shows, because there are 41 Broadway theaters and then you've got off-Broadway shows. There are so many to choose from. So pick your top 5. Research them, research the prices, and then research the show performances to make sure that they're in line with your trip and the times that you perhaps want to see them.
I know a lot of people that try to do a doubleheader, right?
Yes, they go to the 2 o'clock matinee and then they go to either the 7 or 8 o'clock performance.
Sorry, Alisyn, go ahead.
I used to do that when I was a school kid. We used to go into New York and go see 2 in one day, and it was great. It was so wonderful. But Lee, so what do they need to do in terms of how they can get the best prices? Is there a day or a time that's less expensive?
Okay, so there is no day or time that's less expensive. For example, like Tuesdays, I guess if you book airline tickets is always a good day for that. There's not anything like that on Broadway. But my suggestion is pick the top 2 that you want to see. Popular shows like The Lion King, Aladdin, The Great Gatsby you were talking about is popular, Wicked. Buy those tickets in advance online, okay? Then when you get to New York City, the other 3 that you want, figure out, maybe where you want to see it, what your price point is. Go to the TKTS booth when you're in New York City. You're not paying online ticket fees. You can get discount tickets there. You can go to the box office. This is my favorite spot.
Yep.
And the best trick is to go to the box office because you're not paying online fees, right? And then also some shows offer rush tickets. So you go in the morning, $45 rush tickets, right? So this is, they do sell out. So a lot of people wait in line for certain shows to get those ticket prices, but they might not necessarily be orchestra. They could be all around the theater.
My presumption was always I would never show up at the box office because I thought they were all sold out. Not the case.
Well, it could be the case. It could be. So have a backup plan. If that show you want to see is sold out, go to the next one.
Right. And you have to be a little bit savvy and sometimes a little bit lucky. It used to be that you could go to that TKTS booth like about an hour before the show, and some of the local hotels that were holding tickets that didn't get used released them back. And I remember getting like second row seats to rent, and it was just off the cuff.
Exactly. When I went to see Buena Vista Social Club, which is a new show playing on Broadway, I had my tickets ready, but I wanted to see if you can get a ticket for that night. I went to the box office. They had a ticket, $99 orchestra. So that's my tip.
That's amazing. I like this. I mean, it's hit or miss, as you're pointing out.
Yes.
But when you say a rush ticket, you mean you go to the box office in the morning, and these are just the ones that for that day they haven't sold yet? I mean, they have a handful left?
Correct. They have an allotment that they are holding for these 45 discount tickets. So I think most box offices open at 10 a.m. Sorry, my IFB is coming out, so I'm trying to hear you at the same time. So you go, a lot of people wait online, 6, 7, 8 for that box office to open at 10 o'clock. You wait online. If it's a popular show that offers a rush ticket, Waiting for Godot is a new show with Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves. They announced rush tickets for that. So you look online. This keeps coming out, Alisyn. Sorry if I can't hear you, but they keep offering discount tickets, and it all started with Rent, as you mentioned. They offered $10 front row seats to Rent, and it has never stopped since they've offered these discounts.
Okay, before you go, speak to the tourists out there. A couple of shows. I know you did mention some, but what are the most popular shows and some that they might overlook? Because you did say it's not just Broadway, it's off Broadway.
Maybe Happy Ending won Best Musical this year at the Tony Awards. That is a popular show. Death Becomes Her is a great musical comedy on Broadway right now. And Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, I want to talk about that because the Malfoy from the movie is joining the show in his role. Tom Felton is going to be starring in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So that's really insane because you don't usually see a movie actor stepping into the role on Broadway.
I don't think he could do any other role because I can't see him as anything but he's so perfect. I know.
Yeah, that's his life, man. We're all Harry Potter fans.
Yeah.
I want to see Mamma Mia, though. That is the only show I need to see.
When are you getting tickets for your daughter? We keep talking about it.
Let's go. I'm going to just
do it in the break.
You do the rest of the program, and I'm going to get to work here.
Thanks so much for joining us.
The views expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of USA Today or its affiliates.
Welcome in on this Tuesday morning. Happy Rosh Hashanah to those who celebrate, and also happy fall. First full day of fall. We want to welcome you in. I'm Kate Sullivan alongside Dave Briggs at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey.
Favorite thing about fall?
Everything. I love the leaves. I love the sweaters. I love the fruit. I love the color.
Wow.
Everything.
Pumpkin spice?
You know, I can't do the PSL.
Not everything.
PSL, not
everything.
You got me. You got me.
Football, obviously,
Yes.
for me. All right, just days after Charlie Kirk was shot, a Philadelphia radio host wrote an article about Kirk titled, quote, "Black America Should Care That Charlie Kirk Was Murdered." We're joined by the author of the article, Dr. James Peterson, host of, quote, Evening Words on WURD in Philadelphia. Good morning to you, Dr. Peterson. Let's get to the heart of the article. Tell us why the Black community should care about Charlie Kirk's death.
Well, part of what I'm trying to establish in the article is that there is a longer history of political violence in this nation, and that when we do not take a very serious look at political violence and understand that history, then we might miss out on the fact that it has had a tragic impact on the Black community. I'm thinking about MLK, I'm thinking about Medgar Evers, I'm thinking about Malcolm X, and so many others, right? I'm thinking about all the ways in which political violence has afflicted the Black community in this nation, and wanting folks to take a moment and take a beat and think about that history in this particular moment. Just because a particular figure may not espouse viewpoints that you agree with or that I agree with, I don't think it makes it any less serious an event when political violence rears its head here in the United States. And so I was trying to do that on one side of it. On the other side of it, I was also trying to manage expectations about what you're going to see on social media as well, right? Like, people use humor sometimes to work through complicated issues, and so it can't always be seen as disrespect. And obviously, Charlie Kirk himself was a huge proponent of First Amendment rights, and so it's a little bit ironic that in the moment, in the aftermath of his murder, there's been a little bit of a chill on free speech and speaking critically about his ideology and his ideas, or even about this situation.
Yeah, there's been a witch hunt for anyone who says anything bad about Charlie Kirk, and it seems so counterintuitive. Charlie Kirk himself would have encouraged debate about his statements and his legacy.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You have such a provocative title, Dr. Peterson, Why Black America Should Care That Charlie Kirk Was Murdered. But if you had to take the temperature, do you think Black America does care?
You know, that's interesting. You know, I host a talk radio show, so I'm talking to Black folks like every day, but I'm very hesitant to take the temperature in our community about this issue. What I would say is that, just judging from the reaction and the impressions and people speaking out about it, yes, they care, right? Like, I don't know if they care in terms of like, well, we're sad that this happened, or we believe that the ideology that Charlie Kirk spoke about during his lifetime is something that we agree with. But I think people care because it reflects a certain moment that we're in the sort of national political narrative, where the silos and the divisions amongst us politically are so profound. And you can see this unfolding right now as unfortunately some folks on the right are really politicizing the murder of Charlie Kirk and really weaponizing it in ways, again, that I think that people in the Black community are familiar with. And so we care about it. I think it's about trying to understand what it is we actually care about within the framework of this complicated situation.
What do you make of his many statements about Blacks over the years? Many feel they are certainly racist. Others say they were taken out of context. What is your sense of that?
Charlie Kirk has definitely espoused some anti-Black rhetoric over the course of his public career. I don't think we can mince any ways about that. Now, there are certain issues. So, for example, I'm in favor of reparations. I believe that the federal government and local governments and private banks should repair the African American community for the long history of enslavement in this country. Charlie Kirk was against reparations, and he could articulate his position as such. But and I would have loved to debate folks about that, right? But there are too many times, I believe, where Charlie Kirk's general ideology is to erase the history and erase the historical experiences of Black folks in this country to make certain claims about the nature of Black life in America in the 21st century. I don't want to get our audience too much into the weeds, because Charlie Kirk was a smart guy, but he was too quick, in my opinion, to elide the history of Black folks in his critique of Black people in America.
What should viewers take away about the dangers of normalizing political violence?
Yeah, so this was another key piece I was trying to get to with the piece, and I write for a living as well, but I don't always make my points exactly the way that I want them to do. I don't think that anyone should applaud political violence, and I don't think that anyone should look away from political violence. You have to have a clear-eyed view of what it is and what it means. If someone's viewpoints, what someone says, can rise to the level of someone assassinating them or trying to take their life, number one, we've seen this before, and for the Black community, we've seen it way too many times in our community, in our history. We've seen the government sanction political violence in our community, and so we should be more sensitized to it. We should be more wary of it, and I think that unfortunately, the conversation that has unfolded in the aftermath of this terrible tragedy has been too much impacted by people trying to control what people can say, instead of having a more generative conversation about, how do we take the temperature down a little bit? How do we diffuse some of this? How do we address the challenges of young men or young people being consumed by ideologies on social media? How do we reach out to our communities and speak to them in a way that can diffuse some of these situations before they unfold? Otherwise, if you look away, or if you laugh at it, or if you dismiss it, I think we missed an opportunity to move forward beyond something as terrible as this particular moment that we're in.
Yeah, to actually honor Charlie Kirk's legacy. I too, I'm with you. I don't agree with much of anything he said, but I do love the fact that he took his debate to his critics in an open forum. And I think, if I had to guess, in this moment, he would want us having a dialogue and a conversation, not silencing free speech. It is a very strange and tough moment we are in. Dr. James Peterson, well written, well said. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Dr. Peterson. To other news now, President Trump is warning pregnant women to avoid taking Tylenol, claiming there is a link between the painkiller and autism. He made this announcement alongside Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Today, the FDA will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change.
Because I think you shouldn't take it, and you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire, and you shouldn't give the child a Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child.
The president also promoted the use of folic acid as a treatment for autism. The medical community quick to challenge the findings of the White House. In fact, we had Dr. Paola Coley on earlier saying, you asked the question, if she were pregnant, would she take Tylenol? And she said 100% yes.
Yeah, and she acknowledged to us there is some complicated research here, that she understands some of the interpretation of those findings. But again, at the end of the day, she's encouraging her patients to continue to take Tylenol. And if she too were pregnant,
yes.
And this is a woman with degrees from Duke and Johns Hopkins,
yes.
One of the smartest people I've ever talked to on the issue, said, yes, I would feel safe taking it. So, boy, just a lot of misinformation.
I can't imagine being in a doctor's office this week if you were an OBGYN with all of your patients. This is going to be a crazy week.
Imagine the phone calls,
yes.
the voicemails,
let
alone the panic people coming in. Jimmy Kimmel, meanwhile, heading back to late night.
Yes.
ABC says his show will return to the air Tuesday after a controversial suspension that sparked a national debate over free speech, politics, and, of course, government pressure. However, Sinclair, they own 38 ABC stations, says it will preempt Kimmel's show tonight while negotiations with the network continue. Interesting, because let's just be honest, this is probably going to be Jimmy Kimmel's highest rated show ever. And those advertisers are missing out on valuable eyeballs.
Boy, are
They're going to
they.
air local news instead. Disney executives pulled Kimmel off the air last week after his comments on Charlie Kirk's killer drew heavy criticism.
Yeah, FCC Chair Brendan Carr was accused of threatening networks, adding fuel to the free speech firestorm. And this tonight, when Jimmy Kimmel takes the stage, there is really going to be a collective wait to see what he says, right? This is going to be so interesting.
Will he apologize? Like, I think of when I punish my children and they reluctantly, fine, I'm sorry. I don't think Jimmy Kimmel in this instance needs to apologize. Let's just be clear. He never said the shooter is MAGA. And as my read and listen to this 100 times, he never even suggested that the killer was MAGA, rather that MAGA wanted to assure that he was anything but them. I think his comments were taken enormously out of context. But let's be clear. Brendan Carr said on that podcast, we can do this the hard way or we can do this the easy way. And Ted Cruz, the most conservative of senators, said that is dangerous. And he said this is clearly inappropriate use of FCC power and we need to stop it. And he pointed out that, hey, they'll be coming for us next time. It was nice to see Ted Cruz lead on that issue, a former Supreme Court clerk, not just a U.S. senator.
Can you imagine the writer's room right now as they try to figure out what he should say? How do you say it? How do you make a joke of it? Do you not? I think you have to address it to some degree. He has to say something
there's
pointedly,
no question.
Right? And the question is, how will the words "I'm sorry" come out of his mouth? Or will
I don't
it be
think so.
veiled?
But that would be an interesting bet or question of the day. Will the words "I'm sorry," and I would say no, and you would say?
I would say no too. Yeah, I would say
we have another question of the day if you want to just tweet us or
get the QR
or DM
code.
us on Instagram. All right, big story globally. France joining Britain, Canada, Australia, and Portugal in formally recognizing a Palestinian state. The move comes as Israel pressures on with its campaign in Gaza as pressure builds for a two-state solution. French President Emmanuel Macron, you see there, called recognition the only solution to bring peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowing there will be no Palestinian state. Meanwhile, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, in a taped speech to the United Nations, insisted that Hamas will have no role in the future of Gaza and called on the terrorist group to surrender their weapons.
With more on that, plus protests in Italy demanding an end to the Israel-Gaza conflict, we go to our foreign correspondent, Amy Kellogg, who joins us live from Milan. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning. Live from Milan, where I'm watching all of this. It really is quite an incredible week. And the reactions to the recognition of a Palestinian state have been really mixed. As you pointed out, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been very negative. President Trump has called it a reward for Hamas's behavior. But the press community has even been mixed. And I think it's interesting to point out that the Financial Times, which is an important newspaper of record, has supported this kind of broad recognition among many countries of a Palestinian state. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal, which is also a very important newspaper of record, has called it punishment of Israel. Some are calling it theater, but the fact of the matter is that even if it doesn't have a huge effect on the ground in Gaza, there is some symbolism to this move, and some have suggested that it could be to placate domestic audiences, constituencies where emotions run very high, which we saw here in Italy yesterday. Yesterday, there was a national strike. It was called In Support of Palestine. There were demonstrations in 80 different Italian cities, but only in Milan did it become truly violent when these protesters tried to occupy the central station. They attacked police, throwing fire extinguishers and stones at them. 60 people were injured. The station sustained a lot of damage. It would be like this happening at Grand Central Station in New York, for example. And Italy's leadership, which was on its way to New York for the UN General Assembly, basically just said, look, all of this violence does not help the Palestinian people.
A quick sidebar. If we got a peace deal, which is not, I'm not overly optimistic, is there anything left of a potential Palestinian state?
That is the problem, Dave. Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, has said there won't be anything east of the Jordan River. Of course, the two parts of Palestine that need to be joined up if there is to be a state are the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And the Gaza Strip is uninhabitable right now. Someone will have to rebuild it. I think the assumption is some of the Gulf Arab states will be forking over the money for that. But certainly that's a long way off because the fighting hasn't ended.
Amy, can you give us some bullet points? What are people watching and waiting for at the General Assembly meeting?
Well, certainly President Trump, who is going to be speaking this morning, a little bit later this morning, and he apparently is going to set out his vision for the world. It has been also suggested that it will be a story about America's new strength around the world, and also it is anticipated that he will lash out at some of the international institutions, i.e., the UN. The United States under President Trump is now out of the World Health Organization and out of the UN Human Rights Council. So I think there's a fair amount of anxiety that the US will pull further support from international organizations like the UN.
How would you describe the state of the UN as it celebrates its 80th birthday?
Well, Dag Hammarskjöld, who was the original head of the UN, said that the organization is not meant to deliver mankind to heaven, but to prevent humanity landing in hell. And I think the fact that we see this rules based international order now seriously eroded, we've got three very hot wars between Ukraine, Gaza, and Sudan going on. There is a lot of questioning about the relevance of the organization. The Pope, our new Pope, Pope Leo, said earlier this year that he feels that it no longer has its convening power. Well, it does have convening power, Dave and Kate. We see that this week, but the question is, can it make a difference? And there is certainly a lot of talk that there is a series of 80th birthday reforms that need to be really looked at and acted on. And a lot of that will also be cost cutting. So, where the corners are cut and how the organization is consolidated to be relevant, to no longer be what some consider a dead man walking, is something people will be watching this week as well.
Really interesting. Amy Kellogg live from Milan for us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Coming up next, the widow of Charlie Kirk said she forgives her husband's accused killer. Our mental health expert is going to join us to talk about how forgiveness can shape grief and healing. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody, to Connecting America here at the Sunrise Diner. Charlie Kirk's memorial was Sunday, and one of the most powerful moments, of course, was when his widow, Erica Kirk, stood before tens of thousands and said she has forgiven Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing her husband. Listen.
On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
For many, hearing her say those words was almost unimaginable, self-included. But her message also raises questions about the role forgiveness can play in grief and healing.
Yeah, to help answer some questions we're joined by our mental health expert, Marcy Hopkins. And Marcy, that was such a moment during the funeral. It was so powerful. We all think to ourselves, could we do that? I mean, that is true faith and forgiveness. What was your takeaway when you heard Erica Kirk's statement?
Well, first of all, just watching that again, I mean, just takes my breath away. I mean, her words are so incredibly moving. To publicly forgive a man that took her husband's life was a complete act of strength. And she showed us all like the power of faith, compassion, emotional courage. But the thing is, forgiveness is not about condoning what that man did. She's choosing peace over bitterness. Her connection to God, Charlie's connection to God, is so strong. And she's showing us that faith can allow us to find that forgiveness and teach us that, right, that hate, when we are shown hate, the answer is not hate, the answer is love. And that's what I took from that. And I believe forgiveness is true freedom.
And how can forgiveness actually help people cope with various types of loss?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's truly powerful in the quest for healing. When we let go of anger and resentment, there's such a freedom. When we hold on to it, it prolongs our suffering. And it doesn't erase the pain, but it eases the emotional burden, what we carry, holding on to that story, living in that story. And it allows the person that's grieving to separate themselves from the trauma that has happened and start to focus on the healing. And as Erica has shown, I mean, just having faith, prayer, can open up the door to peace. And I think it's just really important that, again, if we begin the process of forgiveness, we begin the process of peace.
Marcy, I'm just going to flip it on for just 1 second. You know, there's something called righteous anger. And I think there's no one who wouldn't look at the Charlie Kirk situation and say, wow, does she have the right to feel righteous anger? Can forgiveness sometimes come a little bit too early? I'd like to think I'd be able to forgive, but I don't know I could do it that quickly.
No.
Right? I mean, that was just literally less than 2 weeks. Does it create pressure? And I mean, I don't want to put a timeline on forgiveness, but what are your thoughts on whether forgiveness can come too early?
Yeah, first of all, there's no timeline on forgiveness, right? We just evolve. We learn to live with it in different ways. And we can be pressured in a lot of ways, right? By maybe her faith community, society, feeling pressure from all those that are looking at her. And we don't face the same. But yes, we can forgive too early, and we don't allow ourselves to go through that forgiveness process, right? Anger, pain, resentment. And it is a process. And we can have inner conflict and resentment. And so, yeah, that can be really difficult.
Marcy, how is it complicated from a mental health perspective that the President of the United States, the loudest messenger arguably in the world, just moments later said, I hate my opponents, after Erica, in addition to forgiving him, said, the answer to hate is not hate. And then the president comes in and says, I hate my opponents. I don't wish them well. Did that lessen the impact of her powerful statement?
I don't think so. I think that we know where President Trump comes from, and we don't look at Erica the same. He does not take away from the message that she put out there, that she portrayed, like this image of faith in and God, and realizing that, Charlie had a message, and she is going to continue that message. And she wants everyone to know that she needs to continue that message. And it doesn't matter what anyone else says, and especially President Trump. I think we just know his messaging. And Erica, it did not take away, in my opinion, what she had to say. And she really showed us a true lesson in the power of faith. And I think that hopefully we can start looking at our daily practices and bring in some sort of faith practice if we don't have it.
But Marcy, not all of us can be Erica Kirk, right? So my question is, and that was so admirable and so beautiful, but what is the average person who feels like they could never forgive in a situation like that? What tools can the average person take steps on to perhaps begin to forgive or to start healing?
Well, first of all, I want to say that forgiveness is very difficult. I've had to do it in my life. I've gone through a lot through my life, whether it's been abuse, abandonment by my mother. Like, I understand the power of forgiveness. I know how hard it is. We aren't facing the same, obviously, that Erica Kirk is, but forgiveness is something that's so vital in our lives, and I've lived it. I know it. It can change our lives. So first of all, it's recognizing what it is that you need to forgive. Maybe it's someone else, maybe it's yourself. So recognizing what that scenario is, what that person did, and write it down, journal it, get your feelings out there, and don't judge it, right? Just release it. And then maybe there's help that you can get, whether it's a grief counselor, if that's what you're going through, or maybe a therapist, or maybe even a spiritual, somebody in spirituality, or maybe it's a priest. Also, it's very important to release that pain and release, letting that go through the practice of prayer, meditation, and also breath work. But it's definitely a process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. One other thing that I had to do when I forgave my mother, I had to separate my mother from being my mom. So you have to look at the human being, what they've gone through, what is their past, did they do the best that they could do? See them for who they are, and not necessarily what you expected from them. And once you can do that, it allows you the process of beginning that forgiveness. I know it's not easy, but realize that forgiveness is not saying that it is okay what they did.
Right.
You are releasing the power that they have over you.
Yeah, that was really good. Don't judge the anger. I think I do that a lot. Instead of you can't. You have to feel your feelings and then move on from that. You can't skip a step, can you? You got to go through the steps.
No. You got to feel the feelings, and it's hard to feel the feelings, but it really helps in the healing process.
Yeah.
Marcy Hopkins, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Very great advice. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always about forgiveness. It is about letting go of anger.
Yes. And for me, prayer is great, but I've got to get it out physically. Whether it's running, walking, like, to me, I have to process it, maybe running through it. I got to really, it's a physical letting go.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well done. All right, after the break, more parents say they're struggling with debt and it's impacting their mental health. We'll take a closer look when Connecting America returns. Welcome back to Connecting America. We may be in New York Metro, but our mission is to share stories from small town America. So let's take you to rural Georgia in an art gallery like you've never seen before. Here's reporter Chris Knight.
This junkyard turned roadside attraction in Alto, Georgia is an unexpected art gallery. Welcome to the School Bus Graveyard. This mural says game over, but really for these old retired buses, they've taken on a whole new life here. Amazing murals full of colorful details and humor grace the grills, bumpers, hoods, and bodies of old buses and cars. Look at the sun and the stained glass windows. This is neat. Mechanic Walter Wade is the third generation in his family to call the school bus graveyard home.
Yes, it is my home, and it's always been an adventure.
Walter grew up here and remembers when the first school buses came onto the property. They were used to build a fence line to keep thieves out of the junkyard. An artist asked to paint on one of the buses, and the rest is history. Ignore the signs that say get lost, because visitors are welcome to marvel at all the artwork too.
Look at that, that's cool.
As long as you pay the entry fee and obey the rules.
Don't paint on anything, don't break anything. A lot of people love it because they come a long ways to see it, because it's never ever the same, no matter what time of year you come.
As the saying goes, at the school bus graveyard, one man's junk is another man's masterpiece. In Alto, Georgia, I'm Chris Knight.
All right, first day of fall here at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park. We have more stories for you coming up in just a bit.
Welcome back to Connecting America here at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. First day of fall.
Yes. Oh, I breathe. This is my time, right? I love it.
Breathe it in.
Yes. From
Breathe
the
it in. Smell of fresh cut grass.
the crisper air.
Leaves are turning.
Just makes me happy. You got to celebrate the little things in life. It is only Tuesday, but this next story may be our favorite one this week about the audience at a stand-up comedy show coming together to save a man's life when he went into cardiac arrest. Take a look.
Hey, everything okay? Oh no. Oh no. Is there a medic in the house at all? That was incredible, dude. You guys all really just came together in a really cool way, dude. You saved that guy's life, man.
Yeah.
That's comedian Drew Lynch. The unseen man, by the way, was saved and is recovering. The video is from a September 12th stand-up show in Spokane, Washington. It's been viewed on Drew's Facebook page 16 million times and counting.
And we are happy to have Drew Lynch on the show with us. Drew, I was waiting with bated breath to figure out what was going to happen. Tell us from your POV, when you were on stage, what did you see and what happened right before the video started?
Sure. Well, first of all, good morning, and it's kind of a really cool thing that this guy's story gets to be told. His name's Dick Wendy, and just before he had collapsed during the show, I had noticed that from one side of the showroom, a lady had stood up to make a beeline to him on the other side of the showroom, and by that time, people were kind of aiding him to fall towards the ground so they could basically start CPR on him, and just kind of almost like being in an operating room. It was like everyone was just quietly communicating, and it was deliberate communication, and everybody kind of systematically started to fall into their roles, moving certain furniture aside. One person announced that they would do CPR. Another person said that they would be their second. People had called 911. People had cleared a path for the paramedics for when they arrived, and then they actually ended up. He was dead for over 5 minutes, and then they had revived him before the paramedics even got there.
The obvious irony staring us all in the face is comedy right now is dividing our country in half. What made you so emotional there on the stage?
I think it's that exact reason, is that it was this weird feeling of like it just felt like it was almost nostalgic. It was like help your neighbor type thing. Like no one cared about how anybody aligned, like socially or politically or whatever adversity anyone is going through was just kind of put to the side to come together for one common goal. So I was so emotional because yes, I got to witness a miracle, but I just got to witness a group of people who understood what was necessary at that time. And when I got to go visit Mr. Wendy in the hospital the next day, because we wanted to go, we wanted to finish the show and go see him. Yeah, there he is. We got to spend just a few hours in the hospital with him and his family. And he's donated his time for over 50 years being a speech therapist. So he's been like just a person of service for over 5 decades. So I just feel very connected to somebody who's just who deserves to be here.
Drew, not to make a joke and not to make light, but this is what you do. You look like you were crushing him. You really leaned in on him. Was he like, hey, give me some space, kid?
Yeah, he was like, listen, why'd you bring me back? I can't believe this was supposed to be it. No, we were all very gentle with him. It was gingerly. We were handling him. And so this was just over a week ago that this happened. And since then, I've been texting his family almost annoyingly. So I was like, I told him when I left the hospital, I was like, I'm going to be annoying for the next little while just to make sure that he's okay and make sure he's in the facilities that he needs.
Drew, I'm heartened by the fact that the audience came together. I'm also heartened by the fact that there are 16 million views on this because you know as well as I do, it seems like the algorithm leads us all to rage
Negativity.
content.
Yes.
And it makes me so happy to see that this was so
content.
well received. What does that tell you?
Well, I think it just shows that people, need to see people coming together in that way. It's just like this reminder that underneath everything, we're human, and it's a reminder that life is fragile. And it's not about me, and it's not about the views. I'm glad that people are seeing it because it's a good reminder to get acquainted or reacquainted with CPR. So the fact that it's getting shared around and his story is being told and the fact that he almost lost his life is what's saving lives is tremendous.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you want to learn CPR, the American Red Cross, the American Heart Association, and the HSI all help you learn those valuable skills. I'd be remiss if I didn't, though, ask a stand-up comedian for their take on what's going on with Jimmy Kimmel and what you expect him to say tonight.
Oh, I was not prepared for that question. I had no idea. No way, dude. I'm not touching that. Nope. I'll talk on this story for as long as I wish I could go into. Is it happening? Help!
CPR.
Help!
Someone call 911.
Do I just lay here for a bit?
Alisyn Camerota always tells me I always ask that one question, but that's what I
Yeah,
do here.
can someone
You
in the
have
diner
no
come help this
opinion?
poor
Yes,
man out of the
Drew.
building, please? Get him less coffee.
Brother, there is no
Drew's
way you
not
have
touching
no
the
opinion on
controversy.
this.
Will he apologize? Will he
Will
say
he
sorry?
apologize?
No,
Nope.
not.
I'm going to end up on other news outlets that will not be as credible if I say things.
Right down the middle. We understand, Drew. We understand, and we
Yeah.
appreciate this story. My favorite story of the day for sure. And
I tried, dude.
And really, everyday Americans are awesome. In a tragedy, in a situation, in a crisis, they pull together, and it's so heartening to see.
Yeah, look, and more coverage of stories like this and less about the rage, better country. I wish you took the bait, Drew, but nonetheless,
we understand.
Very much appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you, my friend.
All right, to other news right now. He was great.
A new survey shows parents across America are struggling to keep up with the rising costs of raising kids. Again, yeah, 6 in 10 parents say they've gone into debt just to cover basic needs.
Food alone.
National Debt Relief and Talker Research surveyed 2,000 parents across America, from groceries to gas to extracurriculars. Many moms and dads say their financial burden is becoming unmanageable, not to mention the cost of sports today. Wow, taking a toll on people's mental health.
Yeah, and joining us now is Jordan Reed, author of Ramshackle Glam, which tackles everything from pregnancy to parenting to anxiety. Jordan, you read first of all, great to have you with us. You read the report. Why are 6 in 10 American parents saying they are going into debt for their children?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. It is a combination of economics and culture. So on the one hand, we have all of the costs for basics, foods going up, housing's going up, gas is going up, and wages are not going up to the same extent or frankly at all. And on the other hand, we also have this modern parenting culture that really encourages or demands even that parents spend more on sports, on tutoring, on extracurriculars, all so that they don't feel like they're negatively impacting their children's future potential.
Impact mental health?
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, it feels really bad on a fundamental level to tell your child that they can't have something that they love, but what's happening is that as parents are prioritizing their children's needs over their own security and sense of stability, and that can feel very noble in the moment, but what it's actually doing is creating a destabilization that could affect their personal well-being, their marriage, and even their ability to show up emotionally for their own children in the way that they want to.
So no parent wants to say no to their kids, right? Especially when it's an expense that, right on the borderline. Could you do it? Yes. Should you do it? How are you neglecting your children's sense of financial literacy when you do say yes to too many things and put yourself in debt?
That is an excellent question. I think that, I grew up with, as many of us did, with boomer parents thinking you don't talk about money. I didn't know what my parents made. I just knew there was anxiety, but I had no sense of why or how I could negotiate that. And I've taken a very, very different approach with my children, where I believe that being honest and compassionate to them creates a resilience and an empathy that I want to foster in them more than I want them to have the new pair of shoes. I want them, I understand in the moment it might feel embarrassing for them to have the wrong t-shirt or whatever, but it is more important to me that they understand the difference between what is meaningful, which is a comfortable t-shirt that they feel confident in, and what is pure capitalism, which is the label on the back.
Boy, that is really, it's such a difficult situation we all face. And I think financial literacy is a part of these issues. So what's your advice for parents facing this dilemma to go into debt to support their kids?
I mean, I do think it's all about these age appropriate conversations where you're not invalidating their emotions, because it can feel easy to be like, oh, come on, you don't need that. But they feel like they do. I mean, look at what we're dealing with at both kids and parents. It used to be that we knew what people had in our immediate circle, and now we know what everybody has. It's not everybody, and it's all courtesy of an algorithm that by its very nature prioritizes conspicuous consumption over things like, family and love.
What's wrong with saying that's not in the budget? That is not in the budget, and it teaches them that you should have a budget no matter how much money you have or don't have.
Okay, Jordan Reed, asking for a friend. If your son breaks his golf driver, that is several $100s, because of his temper, and you really can't afford to go get a new one, what to do? Asking for a friend.
I had a similar situation with our PC, with our gaming PC. I believe that there is a waiting period during which you have to really make sure that they feel how much they don't just want it but need it, and then they have to contribute. And that doesn't have to be in a financial way, but if they want to set a long-term goal, this is an opportunity to have that conversation about how we can do hard things, but also sometimes we can't. And parents have to remember that if you're feeling like a failure, you're not. It is the system that is broken.
Yeah, and what about a yard sale? Could we get a driver at a yard sale?
Hey, I like this idea as well.
That will sting a little.
I am reading Ramshackle Glam, but I'm going to make my son read Ramshackle Glam before he gets that driver.
Yes.
So this is great.
I have a whole section on yard sales.
Jordan Reed, thank you so much. Terrific advice.
Yeah.
That is a dilemma we face every day.
Oh,
in my
I
house.
believe you. Let's check out our national diner of the day. And guess what? This one I've actually been to. I'm stunned. The Root Cafe in Little Rock, Arkansas is a little more than your typical diner. It prides itself as a farm-to-table comfort food and then some. Look how cool it looks from the outside. This opened in 2011 on historic Main Street. It focuses on locally sourced ingredients. And let me tell you, this is in an area of Arkansas that, those pancakes look good. But of course, we can get them here at the Sunrise Diner as well. This is a part of Main Street in Arkansas that wasn't developed, 20 years ago, and it's really seen a resurgence. And they have community events, they have live music, and as you can tell, they also have delicious farm-to-table healthy options, which you don't always find in a diner. Healthy options. So that is the Root Cafe in Little Rock, Arkansas.
And we have food here at the Sunrise Diner.
Yes.
What'd you get?
So I get 2 eggs over easy, sliced tomato, sliced avocado. I make my own avocado toast and put an egg on it.
How about that? DIY avocado toast. Touche.
Yeah, thank you.
I really like that. You're right about Arkansas. You talk about a booming economy coming in the next 10 years. Part of that because of Walmart.
Yep, truth.
Keep your eye on some real estate down there. One last look at our question of the day. With electricity rates seemingly rising in every part of the country, we wanted to know how are yours going up? A little, a lot, we're about the same. And overwhelmingly, you told us everyone's bills are going up a lot.
Yeah, that
more.
was.
And I would include myself in that category, and as would you, Kate.
I would. That was a no-brainer for myself, you, and everybody else. If you would like to find us, you can find us on social media. Would love to connect with you. You can download the Best of Connecting America each day. Wherever you get your podcast, just type in Connecting America in the search bar. You can follow us on social media. We are Connecting America TV on Instagram. Obviously, we're on Twitter, Facebook. We would love to hear from you. That's going to do it for us today. I enjoyed being here, Dave.
It's great to have you, my
Thank
friend.
you.
Please
Thank
come
you.
back soon.
Thank you so much. Happy fall, everyone, and happy Rosh Hashanah as well.
Let's get my breakfast in here.
Where's your breakfast?
It's to your
Oh,
left. I served you yours. You can serve me mine.
I like that.
We'll both play waiter here at the end of the show.
Little reciprocity.
I did the granola, strawberries, bananas, yogurt, and granola.
You know what? That's beautiful. That looks good.
I think we did a nice job. Healthy
Yeah.
breakfast here at the
Healthy-ish.
Sunrise Diner. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Have a good one.
We'll see you tomorrow.